One of the first things I teach in my program is sales is service. Sales is the highest paid skill set on planet Earth, and it's transferable to any industry, right? You might have to tweak it and bend it a little bit, but psychology is the same thing. I could walk out of online high ticket coaching and walk into insurance and become one of the top producers in whatever company I'm in virtually overnight. Why? Because I understand sales.
If you look at it as, you know what, I don't have this account when I go in. My worst case scenario is I'm not going to have it when I leave. There's only an upside for me going in here. So if I get rejected, okay, what'd you do? You put me right back where I was before I ever came in. There's no reason for me to be upset by that. And knowing that that's part of it. Like, not everybody's going to buy from you.
People are just more concerned about being liked than helping people. If you don't handle their objection, you don't hold them accountable, you don't call them on their bullshit, they shouldn't hire you. Because that's what they need. There's a massive lack of leadership right now, and people need leadership, and they're craving leadership. And if you can't step up and be a leader, independent of how they're gonna perceive it, if you don't have the courage to do that, they shouldn't hire you. And even if it's out of their budget or more than they wanted to spend, they will still spend it because they'd rather spend more money on the right thing than less money on the wrong thing.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Power Producers Podcast, where we are refining and redefining the sales game. And today we've got somebody from outside the industry, which is what I really like more than the people inside. Not that I hate them or love them. I'm indifferent, but we need people that come in to give us a fresh perspective because we are in an antiquated occupation that does not move at the speed of everything else, even though we control a lot of dollars. Our guest today is Austin Medlin from Clothesalescom. We were chatting just a little bit before I hit the record button, and we found out he's actually here in Tampa with me and Kyle, and we had no ideas. So that was fun to get caught up on. But before we get too far down the road, Austin, why don't you just kind of give everybody a quick bio of who you are and the overview, and let's get into just some Q&A.
Absolutely. I appreciate you guys having me. Thank you so much. Long story short, I'm a sales guy. I'm good at closing sales. I'm good at teaching people how to close sales. That's the short answer. Been in sales my entire life and got into the world of remote online high ticket sales. Very similar to the insurance world, just for online coaching companies, but similar concept. Got really good at that. Took over 7,000 one-to-one high ticket sales calls, consistently closed over 60% on ice cold traffic. Made about $1 million in commissions sitting from home in my office in a hoodie. Loved it. It was like, I'll never go back to doing anything else. And then eventually got good enough where people started to ask me what I was doing. And then it just made the most logical sense to launch my own company. Still don't know how I picked up Clothesalescom for $1,800, but I did, and I'm happy I did. And then launched my company in November of 2023, teaching companies, business owners, and closers how to get better at sales so they can ultimately close more deals, make more money.
Dude, I think it's crazy. Some of the times, similar story, except I got an even better deal. I can't believe you got the domain for the price you did, but we have a landing page and a campaign for Florida homeowners and auto, and I actually got the domain at improvemyrates.com. And it's like, you got to be for whatever GoDaddy charged me, like $11 for the first year or something like that.
Yeah.
And that's what we run all of our direct mail to. So when we run a postcard campaign or whatever, that's the page they hit, and it's been good for us. But you know, if you've been in sales your whole life, when people say that, I think a lot of people think, oh, well, you know, that's what he's done since he's been an adult. If you're like me, when you say your whole life, I've been selling stuff since I was a kid, you know, and I was the kid that got the school fundraiser and viewed it as a competition and actually enjoyed going door to door soliciting my neighbors for magazine subscriptions.
I used to just eat all the chocolate bars. My dad would have to.
He'd be so pissed. World's finest chocolate, dude. By the
just
way,
eating
those
almond chocolate bars for no
almonds
reason.
and the ones with the caramel in them were fantastic.
so
Everybody
good.
sold those things. They were crazy. But where did you start, man? How early on really did you do that?
Yeah. When I was very young, like below the age of 5, my mom looked around the house one day and couldn't find me and freaked out. And she's looking around, can't find me, doesn't know where I am. And she looks out the front door and she sees me standing across the street at my neighbor's front door, talking to my neighbor. I was like 3, 4 years old. And I had a box of raisins that I had taken out of the pantry. They came in like a big bag with these little miniature, like you pack them in your lunch, right? And I took out a handful and I went across the street, knocked on the door, and I was trying to sell this small box of raisins to my neighbor. Some people are like, oh, are entrepreneurs born or are they created? I think both. For me, I was born that way. Like no one told me to go do that. And then when I was like a little bit older, I started a weed business. So I'd go to my neighbors, knock on their door, ask to pull the weeds out of their garden. They'd pay me $50. Hand squeezed orange juice that we pulled off the neighbor's tree and tried to sell it for like 18, 19 bucks a gallon because it was hand squeezed. There's dirt in it from our hands, like, but the neighbors were buying it just to support us. Car washes, just all kind of dog walking, like
The
anything.
hustle, dude. My kids
Yeah.
do the same thing, man. It's crazy. And you're right, man. I think entrepreneurs and good salespeople are born and then they're just forged by the fire. But my daughter's deadly. She's 12 now, but she or will be 12 in September. But she'll come home from school in the afternoons and go door to door and just ask the neighbors if she could walk their dogs for them. And the neighbors will throw her $5 or whatever. And she's like clocking serious cash every single day with literally no money. But of all my kids, and he's in the office 2 down from me now, I don't even know if he'll remember this, but my oldest son, when he was in elementary school, it's different than when I was growing up. You guys are both way younger than what I am. You know, we used to pay cash for our lunch, but now they have the number and all of that where you're going in and you give them the student number to buy your lunch and there's an account. So I have alerts set on that so I can see what my kids are buying, eating, and all of that. And I noticed that there was an odd velocity in the consumption of his lunch balance. And I'm like, there's no way. And so I start reviewing purchases and I see like all of these individual snack purchases. So we were riding to school one day and I'm like, Grayson, what's going on, man? You know, I notice your lunch account seems to be dwindling relatively quickly. He's like, oh, well, basically what's happening is I have a lot of friends whose parents won't give them money in their lunch account, but they have cash. So if I go and get them something at the snack bar with my lunch number, I can turn around and mark it up double and make money off of selling them stuff from my lunch account. And I said, so average things costing
Dumbass
$1
kids.
and you're selling it for $2? And he said, yeah. I said, okay. So from now on, I want 50 cents on every dollar that you're making. And he goes, well, why would I do that? I said, that's called capitalism. That's the real world. I'm the guy funding your operation. This is my money. You know, I want to get some of it back. So, anyhow, it's just funny, man. I think kids that are creative like that, they can think of all kinds of ways. And I mean, even in, you know, I used to run grocery stores, man, for the first portion of my adult life. And I would watch, you know, you see the kids that get to the checkout line and they want the candy bar and they're kicking and screaming if their parents don't get it. And then you see the kids that know how to sell the parents on getting them the candy bar. And I would actually watch this stuff happen. And it's just absolutely amazing. Somebody put a post up on social yesterday that was talking about this exact concept, and it said that kids are the best. It was basically that kids are the best salespeople, and it said salespeople don't forget how to sell; they just simply don't have the guts to keep doing what they've always done. It started when they were kids, and it really that kind of resonated with me. So I'm kind of the same as you in that regard, in that I started really early. I talk about it in the foreword to the first book that I wrote, but similar to you, I didn't live here in the early part of my childhood. I lived all over the place. And then when we settled here, I've been here for pretty much my entire life. But we lived outside of Pittsburgh and my neighbor across the street had a tree called an Osage orange tree. And I don't know that I've ever seen them exist anywhere other than that tree in that neighborhood. But it produced fruit that you can't eat. It smelled like an orange, but it looked like a spherical brain because it was wavy on the skin and all of that. And I took one in for show and tell one day, and everybody loved it. And they're like, could you get me one? Could you get me one? And I'm like, yeah, I can do that. So I went home that afternoon and I went across to Mrs. Scott's front door and I knocked on it and I said, I notice you have a lot of Osage oranges in your yard, and I know it's probably an inconvenience for you to have to pick them up. Would you be willing to pay me if I were to clean up your yard and get rid of your Osage orange problem? And she's like, well, yeah, I would be happy to. And this is mid 80s or early 80s. So I probably got like $2 or $3 for cleaning up her whole yard. But what I did do is I took the entire took my backpack full of Osage oranges and sold them for $1 a piece at school the next day. So not only did I get paid to clean the lady's yard, but I got paid to sell them until I realized that the principal didn't find elementary school to be a free market economy, and I was asked to cease operations immediately. But it's always funny to hear people tell those stories, because I feel like if you have been even remotely successful in sales as an adult, you have all kinds of stories like that as you were growing up.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. So number one, I wish that you had an actual weed business when you were 8 and not
A weed.
and not
I
a
wasn't even
weeding,
thinking about that.
not a weeding business. But with you talking about kids, I think the biggest thing with them, man, is they don't take no for an answer. Like, or they'll take it, it'll take them way more times than an adult to actually accept that no. I mean, like Nash is annoying with it. It's like a mosquito. At some point, you're just like, fine, man. Like
Yeah.
you can have the chocolate chip cookies or whatever it is that he's asking for, but they just don't they don't have that fear of the no, I don't think, or it makes them want to go even harder, which I think is different for adults.
They don't care about rejection, right? Like kids just don't care. And then I think what happens is as kids get older, they start feeling rejection and feeling what it feels like and taking it personally. And then they become fearful of the ask because they're afraid of the no. And good salespeople don't really care. Like our job as salespeople is to help people make buying decisions with products and services that will genuinely help them, whether it's insurance or coaching or a car or whatever it is. Like these people need what we're selling. And so we can't be afraid of the no. It's our duty and obligation to help and serve these people. And we do that by selling them our stuff.
So like you engage with a bunch of different kinds of businesses, obviously not just insurance and cars or whatever it is, but like, is that something that you see as a huge, break in people's process, is just people not going far enough with the no, like when you're coaching and, kind of looking at their sales process? Talk about that for a minute.
Yeah, people are just more concerned about being liked than helping people. Like, I'm not really worried about being liked. I don't really care about people's perspective and perception of me. Like, I have a ridiculous mustache and I drive a supercar. Like, do you think I give a shit what people think about me? Absolutely not. Don't care. It's not my job and
You're
it's not my
basically the new
responsibility.
version of Magnum PI, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, like, I don't care. And like, some people come up to me, like, I'm at the drive-thru the other day grabbing a coffee, and the guy opens the door and goes, dude, how do you get your mustache to look like that? Like, that's beautiful. It's amazing. Da, da, da. He's like complimenting it. Then I can leave and walk down the street and then, check Instagram and somebody comments like, dude, you look like this, you look like that, like hating on it. So it's like, you can't win. So I'm not
Yeah.
worried about people's, how they perceive me. I'm more worried about just telling people the truth and helping them make a buying decision that we both know that they need to make because they're struggling with this or they have a gap here. And this program, product, service can fill that gap. So they would be crazy not to buy it. And it's my duty and obligation to help them make that buying decision independent of how they feel about me. I just want to tell them the truth and get them the help that they need.
Well, and the reality is, man, especially when it comes to the digital piece of it, you have to be able to detach from all of that stuff, because you're gonna, to your point, you can't win either way. You're always gonna have haters that are out there, but if you can just lean into that and know that those people that are hating on you are actually making you more visible online and they're actually helping your cause, that's great. Hate on me as much as you want. I mean, I'm here for the Instagram comment post just like everybody else is, but at the end of the day, whoever's page that is the one that wins in the end, because they're gaining more exposure. And I agree with you. I think too many times we go in and we're so worried about getting the deal closed that we're just so laser focused on that. But from my perspective, if you detach from that and focus on the process and the education and all of the logic behind it, you're going to win way more, right? These people that go in with like the hard boiler room clothes and all of that, those days are over, man. People don't respond to that. But if you look at it as, you know what? I don't have this account when I go in. My worst case scenario is I'm not going to have it when I leave. There's only an upside for me going in here. So If I get rejected, okay, what'd you do? You put me right back where I was before I ever came in. There's no reason for me to be upset by that. And knowing that that's part of it. Like, not everybody's going to buy from you, but if you get to the point where you're so focused on closing the deal or so worried about being liked, you end up losing more opportunities that way.
Yeah. You know when the hardcore close, like boiler room type sales works is when before you get to that point, you've spent enough time asking deep, intelligent questions about your prospect so they genuinely feel like you give a shit about them. Because then at the end of the call, if you do have to go hard in objection handling or whatever it may be, they know that it's coming from a place of love and service because you've already aligned their heart. Because in sales, you have to have alignment between the head and the heart, logically and emotionally. And if you spend a ton of time in discovery asking them deep, intelligent questions about them, their pain points, their challenges, how long the problem's been a problem, what they've tried to do in the past to solve it, etc., now their heart is bought into you. Like, wow, this guy, this girl really cares about me. They've really asked me intelligent questions. They really want to understand me at the deepest level. So then when you go to pitch them, they believe you. And when you go to objection handle at the end, they know that it's coming from a place of love and service, not a place of, I need your money. So you have to do deep discovery first in any offer, any niche, any industry. Somebody walks in to buy a car, right? I've never sold cars before, but if I did, I'd be pretty damn good at it because I understand sales and psychology. You can't just ask somebody, oh yeah, what's your budget? What are you looking for? One question, two questions. Cool. Here's what you need. Because they don't trust your prescription. If you sit there, well, do you have kids? Is safety important? What do you think you're going to want to do with this car in 3 to 5 years from now? Like, and you just spend 15 minutes gathering information about them. Then you say, look, based on what you've told me, by far 100%, this is the one vehicle that checks all of your boxes. And even if it's out of their budget or more than they wanted to spend, they will still spend it because they'd rather spend more money on the right thing than less money on the wrong thing. And they believe that this is the right car for them because of how deep you went to understand exactly where they're at and where they're going to be in the future, and then fitting that need into the vehicle that makes the most sense for them.
Well, and the other part of that too, just to piggyback on the car sales thing, is they file that away. That's not information that's only valid for this one sale. Now you know a lot more about the likes, interests, and needs of the people that you're selling to. And the absolute best car salespeople that I've ever known, and even in some cases worked with, they don't wait for you to walk on the lot, man. They know what you like. If they see something come through that's in inventory that they think is going to appeal to you, they're going to pick up the phone and say, hey, I know you may not be in the market, but I remember when you bought your last car, you told me if I ever saw something like this is what you really were, this was your dream opportunity or whatever. And they bring the people to the lot. They're not order takers. I think that, I don't know. I'm like you, man. I've never sold cars. I don't know that I ever, I know that I don't ever want to sell cars, but like you, I also think I would be good at it because there's so many hacks, man. And I think that's the other thing is we had, Benjamin Dennehy on from United Kingdom, the Great Britain's most hated sales trainer. And he said the biggest problem that people have is they want to be liked. He goes, I don't give a shit if people like me or not. That has nothing to do with what our conversation's about. And so going and spending all your time trying to make a friend as opposed to gaining a client is a huge trap you get caught in.
I think realtors are the same way as the car example that you just gave, or at least the good ones are. Like our realtor, I mean, we've used him this is now the third house that we've had, through him. And I mean, he just stores and files everything away, and he'll just text. We're not trying to move. Like, we've been here for 3 years coming up, and it's like moving sucks. But he'll reach out from time to time and be like, hey, thought of you guys. This one just popped up. Like, I know you're probably not looking to move again or whatever. And like, we're going to look at it, we're going to be like, okay, that is actually right. Or, no, not right now. But like, it's just kind of staying top of mind. And I get stuff like direct mail from him, literally like probably every 2 weeks. And it's like, it's not ever something, it's just to stay top of mind. And I think that's what the people who are successful do. They ask the right questions, they store that information away, they pay attention to it, and then they bring it up when the time's right or something fits it.
Yep. What I've done to do that, what we just talked about, in an automated way, is just run retargeting ads with no call to action. So if somebody like say books in a call with you, you can run retargeting ads, like 10 retargeting ads that break down the most common objections or limiting beliefs of the typical prospect you talk to. And then you can run a batch of say 10 ads with frequency of 1 on each ad. So they only see each video 1 time. And then you can just spam that for the 48 hours leading up to your call, which is going to build their trust with you because now they're seeing you everywhere. Then after the call, if they don't buy, they can be enrolled into a similar sequence where now that retargeting, when they open up Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Pinterest, LinkedIn, wherever you want to put them, now you're kind of just popping up as little signals to stay top of mind.
Yeah, no, we've had a lot of success doing something similar to that, specifically with auto insurance for BMWs on YouTube. Like we could hammer them and have them, typically they would have to engage for us to take a short survey, but once they did, if they didn't complete that survey, they were in the death spiral of our retargeting because they'd go to Facebook and we'd be like, hey, whoa, you said you wanted to save 25% on your car insurance and you couldn't even spend 2 minutes to fill out a survey. How do you expect me to help you? And you'd be amazed. Well, you might not be amazed, but I mean, the average person is amazed that you would talk to somebody like that and actually get results. But the reality is, like I've said, you're not my client right now. And my worst case scenario is you're not going to be my client when I'm done. So I'm going to be myself. And that sometimes is a little bit sarcastic or whatever else, but it works. And if it clicks, you're my people. And if it doesn't click, then you're not. And I'm okay with that.
Yep, 100%. And I think in sales, in my industry, at least, like when you're doing in the coaching world, if you're going to be the one coaching this person, the sales call should just be a preview of what your coaching is going to be like. And people get on calls in the coaching space because they're not where they want to be and they need help. And so sometimes you need to challenge them with some masculinity and some honesty, which is what you're going to do when they pay you thousands of dollars to be coached by you anyway. If you don't handle their objection, you don't hold them accountable, you don't call them on their bullshit, they shouldn't hire you because that's what they need. There's a massive lack of leadership right now, and people need leadership and they're craving leadership. And if you can't step up and be a leader, independent of how they're going to perceive it, if you don't have the courage to do that, they shouldn't hire you because that means when you're coaching them, you're not going to want to step on their toes. You're not going to want to tell them the truth. You're not going to want to hold them accountable, and they're just going to get mediocre results with your program. The people who get the best results are willing to take radical responsibility because their coach is telling them exactly what they need to do, independent of how it's going to make them feel. It doesn't feel good to get called to the carpet. It doesn't feel good to have your feet held to the fire, but that's how we grow and that's how we get better.
So let's talk about that for a second and continue going down that path there. When somebody is, their organization is, maybe struggling with their sales numbers, whatever, they need help. They reach out to Austin. Talk about what that engagement looks like and, kind of how you start getting in with a particular organization.
Did I work with my clients for 8 weeks? Like that's all I need. If we haven't cracked the code on sales in 8 weeks, you should shut your business down and go do something else because you just don't got it. Like sales is not that difficult once you have the unlocks of like the psychology and why we do what we do. But essentially it starts with looking over their beliefs about sales. Like one of the first things I teach in my program is sales is service. We are salespeople to serve the other person on the other end of the phone. That is why we do what we do. It's not to get rich. It's not to take their money. It's not to be whatever. It's to serve people. So I start with like the beliefs. A lot of people have limiting beliefs around sales. They want to be liked instead of trusted. They have no authoritative leadership. Then from beliefs, once we reshape those, we go to the actual like script. I put script in air quotes because really scripts don't work. You need a framework because humans are dynamic. Some are masculine, some are feminine, some are rich, some are poor, some are experienced buyers, some have never bought your program, product, service, or anything like it before. So if you have a script and you try and fit them into a box, sometimes they fit, sometimes they don't. And if they don't fit in the box, they don't buy. That's why your close rate is 15, 20, 40%, because only 40% of the time did that perfect person fit into the perfect box. Everybody else doesn't buy. So then we rebuild a better framework. They take that framework and start applying it on calls. And then we go heavy call review because there's nothing like real-time footage. If you're listening to this today and you're a salesperson and your close rate isn't where you want it to be, your commissions aren't where you want them to be, the very first lever that you can pull is review your own calls. When I was new to sales in this world of online coaching 6 years ago, I reviewed every single one of my own calls. And if you're on a team, you have a cheat code because you have access to other people's calls. So get the recordings from other people. Ask those people on your team, hey, why did you say this here? Why did you do this there? I didn't really understand this, but it worked. Can you explain the psychology behind it? Go to the top producers and have them teach you the behind the scenes and psychology of why they're doing what they're doing so you can learn and implement it. But if you don't watch the game footage back, you can never get better. People tell me all the time, oh, this call went like that. I'm like, dude, I don't care. Let's just watch the recording. And then how they described it is 0% of what actually happened. So we have these perceptions in our head, way easier just to review the call. So we go into heavy call review, and then eventually we'll look at like systems and scale and building out a team and things like that.
Well, and the reality is, man, there's not an excuse at this point for reviewing calls, because the number one excuse people are going to give, I would imagine, is, well, I don't have time to do all of that. I got to make more calls. But, there are so many AI tools out there now that will take the transcript of a call and analyze it and say, you did this, you did this, you did this. The emotional intent of the person on the other end is this. Here's a cross-sell opportunity that you didn't get. And even if you, and that's what, I want to be clear. I do think there's a lot of value in actually listening to the call and hearing and understanding it. But if you want a roadmap to the calls you need to listen to that are the absolute best and the ones that are the absolute worst, you have systems and software that can point you in the right direction. So I don't have time goes out the window. You can use tools to actually optimize the time you do have and point you to exactly where you need to be.
And if somebody told me I don't have time, I'd tell them to go join a different industry. Because the reality is, you two plus me, we all have 24 hours in a day. Michael Jordan, 24 hours in a day. Tiger Woods, 24 hours in a day. The homeless person down the street, 24 hours in a day. So I don't have time really just means this isn't that important to me.
Yeah, it's not a priority.
And that to me is bullshit. If you're a closer and a salesperson and you want to make ungodly amounts of commissions and money and live an amazing lifestyle of abundance and freedom by selling stuff to people to help them, what do you mean you don't have time to master the one skill set that can set you financially free for the rest of your life? Like, sales is the highest paid skill set on planet Earth, and it's transferable to any industry, right? You might have to tweak it and bend it a little bit, but psychology is the same thing. I could walk out of online high ticket coaching and walk into insurance and become one of the top producers in whatever company I'm in virtually overnight. Why? Because I understand sales. So if someone's like, oh, I don't have time to do that. You don't have time to master your craft to get better, to make more money. Like, I don't track with it. I don't understand. It makes no sense.
Question. Yeah, here's a question for you, man, and you're not allowed to say yourself. Okay, who's the best salesperson that you've ever seen?
I think it would depend on which context, because the first person who comes to mind is this guy Eli Wild. He is one of the best in the world that I've ever seen selling one-to-many from stage. So, but there's different nuances, right? Like, I would say that I'm better at one-to-one coaching. I would say he's the best. He was Tony Robbins' top producer for many, many, many years. Sold like over $100 million from stage for Tony. Like, this guy's an absolute gangster. He understands psychology at a ridiculous level. So his influence, especially from stage with a crowd, is just unmatched. And it's kind of funny. 6 years ago, when I first got into this world, I had this head of sales, this guy David, and I had my CEO Alaric, and they were kind of like teaching me and teaching the sales team, right? And then I spun it and twisted it and made it my own. Well, just like 6 months ago, I was down at an event in Miami at a mastermind, and we brought Eli in. He lives down there. We brought him in to speak, and he just did like an impromptu 30-minute little speech in front of the 20 people that were there. And during the speech, all my clients who were there were kind of like looking up at me, because Eli was basically saying word for word for word things that I had already taught to them. And it was just so much cohesion and so much alignment between what I've been preaching to them and what Eli was saying in front of the room. And after that, we started talking, and we found out that Eli was actually my first sales mentor, because he personally trained David and trained Alaric. So all the information I was receiving had actually been disseminated down from him. And that's why we had so much alignment. So it was like a kind of a cool full circle moment, like 5-6 years after the fact. But I would say if I had to pick one, that guy's an absolute gangster.
That's awesome, man. So let me ask you this. There's going to be a lot of people that listen to this. They're going to want to reach out to you. Where's the best way for them to do that?
I mean, Instagram is good. It's just at the Austin Medlin, THE, Austin Medlin, MEDLIN. And then there I have my YouTube channel linked as well. If they want some like longer form content, like me speaking on stages, me objection handling, like I have a video on there. It's me objection handling for 2 hours straight. Just 2 hours straight of nonstop objection handling, going back and forth with people. So longer form content, YouTube. If they actually wanted to reach out, it'd be Instagram.
Awesome.
Cool.
What we leave on the table?
Everything. No, it's I mean, dude, I could sit and riff and rap about sales forever.
For
Yeah,
2
but
hours
it's
straight,
your day
apparently,
off,
on
man. We're trying to
objections.
be respectful of you. You know, you're in a 4.5 day work week, or four days in an hour now. We don't want to intrude any more than we have. Anything you want to say is like final comments before we wrap up?
I think if salespeople, if they shifted their mindset just a little bit, it's not like a total reframe, but it's like a small mindset shift, I think would unlock significantly higher close rates and commissions. And what that would be is, as a salesperson on every call, you kind of have like a choice to make. And one choice that we can make is we can be liked and not close sales and then be hated later. So what that path looks like is you're liked because you're not telling people the truth. You're not holding them accountable. You're just the friendly guy. Oh man, David's such a nice guy. Kyle's amazing, but they don't buy. So they like you, but they don't buy from you. So you kind of stay broke. And then they hate you later because a day, a week, 10 years goes by and their life has not been changed, and you could have changed it and you didn't. So they're going to hate you later for not getting them the help that they needed. So that's one path. That doesn't sound that fun to me because I don't care about being liked and I want to make money and I don't want people to hate me later. So that's path one that most salespeople are on. The small reframe in their brain is this other path is we might take a temporary loss of likeness from our prospects, but those people will always love you later. They will send you Christmas cards. They will wish you happy birthday. They will tell all their friends and family about you because when you tell them the truth, they might not love what you say, but they know that you're right, so they're going to buy. And when they buy a product, program, service that's actually genuinely great, they're always going to come back and thank you for that. David, thank you, dude. Thank you for getting me into this insurance product. Dude, if I didn't have this, this would have happened. Like, dude, life would have been terrible. Thank you for what you've done for me. So I would rather take the temporary loss of likeness to be loved later and make a shit ton of commissions today, rather than the contrary, which is the path most salespeople are on. They're so worried about being liked that they never close deals, and then people end up just hating them later anyway.
100%, man. Nailed it. Mic drop. Well, listen, I appreciate you coming on today. This has been good. We like you, we could probably sit here and rap all afternoon, but I don't think that makes the most sense in your 4-day work week, and we're stacked one right after the other anyhow. So we're going to go ahead and wrap this up, but I will promise you this, brother. I'm going to be looking for that mustache the next time I'm down around Armature Works. We're down there quite a bit. Especially Eulalie's one of my favorite places to go hang out on the patio and have brunch or whatever and people watch. So we'll cross paths at some point.
Mustache and bright orange McLaren, really hard to miss.
There you go. That's awesome. Sounds good, man. Well, we appreciate your time today, everybody. So make sure you check out Austin at the Austin Medlin on Instagram, and also it'll link to his YouTube channel. I can tell you, I will probably go listen to the 2 hours worth of objections just because I'm a masochist to hear other people's philosophies. And I think that's the thing that's important, man. No matter how good you are, no matter how good I am, no matter how good Kyle is, there's always going to be somebody better. There's always going to be somebody that you can learn from. And as long as you make that commitment and understand that you should never plateau, you should always push forward. There's plenty of people out there that can help you get to the next level. So I trust that many will consume that content and reach out to you. So thanks so much for your time with us today.
I appreciate you guys having me. Thank you.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Everybody else, we'll catch you next week.